Ellen. Welcome to the second session of the ICD-10 training for providers. We discussed in the first session when we did an overall review of ICD-10. As you know, ICD-10 is the International Classification of Disease, and it is the standard internationally for coding diagnosis. The United States has been using the ICD-9 set of codes, or ninth revision of the ICD since 1979. As a result of the Affordable Care Act, all HIPAA-compliant entities in the United States must transition to ICD-10 by October 1st, 2015, which is barely less than a couple of weeks away. As you know, some of the benefits of ICD-10 include that it will encompass more precise documentation of clinical care. It allows for more accuracy when determining necessity for this is rendered. Allow providers to code more accurately, which will contribute to the healthcare quality improvement initiatives. And finally, it will unify the world under one standard to better compare, trend, and forecast diagnosis. We also talked in the first session the new structural differences between ICD-9 and ICD-10. That ICD-10 has about 68,000 potential codes, while ICD-9 has barely 13,100. The size of the codes ICD-10 are from 3 to 7 characters, and so a specific sequence. ICD-10 codes also include a couple of special features, including a seventh character, which is going to be very useful for the OBGYN providers to identify different fetus and associate diagnosis to each of the fetuses. It also provides specificity for episodes of care, specifically for patients that come with injury, with poisoning, or with any other consequences of an external cause. The third use of the seventh character, and I think the most comprehensive and complex, is for all fractures. And the seventh will code for neurality. For all those type of conditions that have a right or a left, these will be required. Today's session will be mostly on how NextGen will implement and facilitate for us patients to document in detail using ICD-10. It will walk us through how we can become more specific on that seventh digit code by allowing us to code to the highest level of specificity possible. For this session, it goes through the NextGen specific workflow. Will allow you to code ICD-10, but also it will help you transform previous diagnoses that you have done in the past using the old ICD-9 codes to the current and more ICD-10 upgrade. We will learn how to follow a standard workflow that will facilitate this process, as well as we will learn the new application, the IMO application that is built into the NextGen application that will make your job much easier at the time of searching for diagnosis. We expect that this session will take anywhere from 40 40 to 50 minutes. And if you need to review this, feel free to rewind, or you can stop to take notes as you see fit. It's very important before you come for the hands-on 2-hour practical training that has been scheduled for the week of the for the 21st. We have sessions that you should have been scheduled, so you will have opportunity to put in practice in the next-gen demo environment for JWCH how to do what we are going to be learning on today's section. So let me share my screen. I've logged in into your demo environment. Be able to show you how the navigation looks as we start learning the new 10 coding process and workflow. In my screen, you're able to see the standard next-gen KVM 8.3. That's the same version that you are currently using. And I already have documented some of the general elements on your documentation that are needed before you are ready to select an assessment. And particular patient is a female patient, a 43-year-old patient that comes to you for a follow-up on diabetes, hypertension, and she also comes because she had an injury at home. So as part of any documentation, and this is no different than what you are currently doing, you document the history of present illness and as much as detail as you need to document using the standard templates that you normally use for it. So this is no change whatsoever. After the HPI, then you go to your review of systems and address the different elements that are associated and symptoms that are associated with the chief complaint. Our medical assistant already took the patient blood signs, and they are recorded for evaluation. And then you perform a focused physical exam to try to document the injury, which was on the wrist and on the hand, the right hand, as she fall from stairs at home. So you're all ready to go to the assessment and plan section. You click the assessment link in your sub-template, and it takes you to the same assessment with some small variations. First, you will notice that you are now have a button in the middle that says Problem IT Plus. That is the link that was going to get you to the IMO. IMO stands for Intelligent Medical Objects. The company is different from NextGen and has developed natural language processing for diagnosis and procedures and other elements to facilitate the search by clinicians. And we have here is that application for diagnosis. And it works seamless with the NextGen application. We're going to spend pretty much the whole session today talking about this. The second change that you will notice is this grid over here where you used to have, or where you have the old, previous diagnosis for the patient, when you click in here, you will get a new pop-up, and this is the next-gen native ICD-10 fix to help you search for the options for the diagnosis. Although you could use this to add diagnosis in ICD-10 for each of the previous ICD-10 diagnoses, I strongly recommend that you use instead the IMO application, and we'll see why in a few minutes. But in general, when you get this, what it means is then in here, this page has a history of adult onset diabetes mellitus. The system then searches using NextGen the 250.00, and it finds a type 2 diabetes with the ICD-10 code E11.9. Now, technically, you could here click and select, and then you will add it to the portion where you can then make the rest of the prints in here. I don't know in your regular workflow how much of this you are currently using or not. But in our practice, we select the status, and if there is a need for site, we select the site, and so on and so forth. And then you click Add or Update. I'm going to click Add or Update. For now, I will use the IMO application to do that in a few minutes. But the point of this is that for every diagnosis that you click, the system is going to search for a compatible ICD-10 diagnosis. In this case, for example, the anemia code that was before was 285.9 for anemia, and this next-gen application got you a D64.9 that is an ICD-10. Again, if you want, you can just click select that one and then click select and then move on. Finally, I want to select this ankle sprain because as an ankle sprain, there is some laterality. Now, the interesting thing, and this is one of the reasons why we do not suggest to using the next gen, is that if you see here for the code 845.0, it found only a sprain of an unspecified ligament of unspecified ankle initial encounter. It doesn't tell you that it's a right or left. And again, there is nothing wrong, but the issue is that it's not specific enough, and it will always give you an initial encounter, which may not be the case for that any longer. So that is why using the IMO application will give you a better way to select a more specific and accurate diagnosis. But in this case, again, if you are comfortable with this, you can select and then click select, and then you add or update after you complete that. Again, I'm going to skip that, so on and so forth. So this is the second change in the new assessment pop-up template that the NextGen has. The third change, and I don't know how many of you are currently using the Add Common Assessment pop-up. NextGen has converted those diagnoses and has now the 10 version of the previous codes that were there. And I would suggest that you not use this because this may not be specific enough to ensure a accurate assessment for the case. So, but if you do want to use it, then you can use ICD-10. So, and then those are the three major changes that are in the new template. Okay. So now, on, then our recommendation is that by the time you come to the assessment template, you go to the IMO application by clicking the button called Provide IT Plus. So you click the button and then get the standard IMO pop-up. It's going to be the place that you are going to be living from now on to be able to for new diagnosis or to transform ICD-9 diagnosis from the past into ICD-10 diagnosis from the future. Okay, so let me get you to the IMO pop-up. So on the left side, this big side here on the left is the search area. So when you search, as we're going to see in a few minutes, by typing here any diagnosis that you want to search, then on the bottom it's going to collate all the potential choices for that. So this search section, that is why it's the biggest, is where you are going to be doing most of the search and section of diagnosis. And on the right-hand side, on the top, where it's assessments, this assessment section is the section where you have today's assessments. So the assessments that are being assigned to the encounter for today. Then on the bottom section here, you have two areas. The default area is the intelligent problem list that the default. And if you have assigned chronic problems using the diagnosis module or adding to the problem on the assessment in the past, they will show up here. If you have not been using the problem list, then this will be empty. We suggest that then you use the problem list to record chronic problems that the patient has, but also problems that you want to monitoring on a consistent basis. Now, the second area that is here is, and I think is the most important one, at least during the transition period, is the history tab. When you click this history section here, then you're going to see here on the bottom populating all the assessments that you have placed for this patient in the past. This particular test patient, as you can see, has multiple diagnoses in the past, and they all show on the history. So to see this section has both the problem list on one side and the history on the other section. And the third element here that, it is there just for some of us who want to know more about the operation of the IMO application. If you click it, you'll get a section that explains what this section is all about. It will show you the details of the assessments that are in the problem list. And if you click here, it will give you some more specific, technical elements about what is the term that they're using, the NOMED, and the specific type of coding systems that are being used now to comply with meaningful use and ICD-10. Again, I suggest that you don't need to be here, but if you want to be here, by all means, then you can just click that, and then to go back, you click this arrow that will take you to where you were before. So see the IMO that is very straightforward. On the left, the most important part is the IMO search section. You have today's assessment that is blank because we haven't added anything. And then you have at the bottom, you have either your list or your history. That's simple. Now, there are also other elements. If you see here in the bottom, you see a section here that says to add to an assessment, problems, or both. So in general, that you select the first time you log into the IMO, you select assessments, because when you find an assessment here and you add it to the record, you'll add it to this section on the top right-hand side of the pop-up. If you click problems instead, then whatever you search here will add not to today's assessment, but to the problem list. And if both, it will then add it to elements on the right-hand side, to today's assessment and to the problem list. So again, Assessment is the most common one. I strongly suggest that you keep that selected as a way to search for diagnosis and add it to today's assessment. Now, if you have any particular chronic diagnosis that you want to add, you can then click the both, so you are adding it to both the assessment and to the problems at the same time. Okay, but in principle, we can just use adding to the assessment. You can, as you start searching, becoming more familiar with this, you can add to the favorites, and you can build a list of favorites. Again, having a list of favorites is delicate in the ICD-10 world because, as you know, specificity is different. You need to be as specific as possible, and if you save diagnosis that may be specific for today's encounter, you should be careful on how you will reuse those future once the same applies. So we are recommending not to use the list of favorites, at least in the meantime, until you become more familiar with the workings of ICD-10 to help you become as accurate and specific as you can. So in general, as I said, the recommendation is that you always search for assessments, add it to the assessment. You can also add it to the problem list at the same time. Okay? So this is kind of the pop-up template for demo. So get some action here. So when you start then searching for assessment and you click the button in your assessment template, you get the IMO pop-up, the one that we have on the screen. Then you have two different workflows depending on what we want to achieve. If we want to transform previous ICD-9 codes into its ICD-10 counterpart, then we should click the history button here, bottom right. So we have a list of all the different assessments that the patient has on record, and we can then reuse them by searching for its ICD-10 counterpart. So we'll start with the first one on the screen here, the adult onset diabetes mellitus. So when you click on the assessment here, what is happening is then on the search screen, the system is going to put the diagnosis here, and it's going to run a search for you. If you get this screen at the bottom, it means that the algorithm could not find anything with all the words that you have here. So what we will do in this case is just delete what we don't want and then click more search. And the system will then do a new search again. So diabetes mellitus then is found in the lexicon of the IMO system. So let me use this to show you that you see a plus means that that assessment is specific enough for you to add to today's assessment. If you see a greater than or the tip of arrow type of symbol, like the first one, it means that you need to go into a more level of specificity to be able to identify a separate, a more specific code. So if any of the pluses meet your needs, then you can select those. If they have a greater than sign or a tip of the arrow, then it means that you need to go into more detail. Okay? So why don't we start, for example, with this one, then let's go into a little more detail with the arrow. We click the arrow. When we click the arrow, then we have this new screen that have checkboxes. And this will allow you to then go deeper and assign all the necessary type of specificity for this. So the first one here is what's the type of diabetes, okay? So if this is a type 2 diabetes, you click type 2. Now you can select from here what type of complication this patient has, okay? If this patient in particular has no complication, you click this one, okay? And if you see for diabetes, you have even more complication details here. Diabetes, as you know, is one of the most complex diseases that we see in our general adult family practice or internal medicine area. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to select type 2 without complications. If I keep going down, it becomes more and more until we get here to one that has a plus, which means after I have selected whatever I think is the most specific diagnosis, I can then click, and then the system is going to assessment. Okay, now you this is thinking on the demo environment, and it's going to add it to today's assessment here, right, with the code E11.9. Okay. Now you need to then go back to the history if you want to go to the next one. Okay. So if we go to the next one, we select anemia. Anemia is found from the beginning, different than the adult onset diabetes. Anemia, it is found in the system, and then you already have a series of potential assessments. One that I forgot to mention before is then another element that is important is these R that may appear next to a particular diagnosis. The R labels this diagnosis as a hierarchical code that is needed to determine how complex this condition is. This is especially important for Medicare patients to get, if you have Medicare Advantage patients, the capitation varies depending on how complex this patient is. So that's why, whenever there is an R, if that makes clinical sense, that will be a preferred diagnosis. And the same rule, if you have an arrow pointing, means that you need to go deeper. If you find something with a plus, then it is something that you can already select. So search again under, for example, anemia, general anemia. I search the second one, and then all this. Okay. So see, I have anemia type. And next to anemia type, I have iron deficiency anemia type or vitamin B12 anemia type. So it depends on what you select. Let's suppose that you select iron deficiency. You always need to select something from the anemia type for iron deficiency, so you become more specific. So, for example, this is due to chronic iron blood loss, if this is the case, or this is other, because we don't know, then we select that. If you have selected B12 deficiency, then we come here to identify a more specific type of B12 deficiency. The same if we would have selected folate, we need to go down to the folate section and so on and so forth. So you see then you go all the way down and until you see the plus sign. And the plus sign, then you're ready to add to today's assessment, and you click plus, and then the system will add it to today's assessment. So in general, add diagnosis is as simple as clicking the history tab and then clicking the diagnosis. For example, now I go to ankle sprain, okay? For ankle sprain, then you see you have a lot of arrows pointing here. That means that, you can go, and you see the difference between the IMO and the one that we did in NextGen is that this will give you more depth into what your potential diagnoses are. If this was a left ankle sprain, then you can come here and select left ankle sprain, and then you can go into the details about that for initial encounter or laterality. See, if this was an initial encounter, for today, again, it's not for what happened in the 9 period. It's if this patient is coming today for a follow-up of that, may be a subsequent encounter if the patient already has been treated, or maybe a sequelae if the patient already has some problem with with that. But I'm labeled as a subsequent encounter. And then if you know the specific lesion that was sprained, then you can select it. But if you are not clear, then you select unspecified ligament because your body don't know. And if you can see here, the code that is assigned is with a D. That is typical for subsequent encounters, and that's evidence code. Okay, so now you click plus, and the system adds that to the assessment. So again, I don't recommend that you do in one sitting all the previous assessments. I think that if you do the most common ones or the ones that are more relevant to the encounter, it will be very, very useful. The point in summary is that if you click something on the history and nothing appears here, then it means that the way it is written, found, you just need to make it, simpler. If there are multiple words, you just eliminate the ones that may not be as useful. Then you click Almost Search so you can get that. If it gets list, then pretty straightforward. Then you just need to decide what to do. If it pluses and that is what you find useful, for example, this is bipolar disorder with depression. If this happens to be a particular case, then you can add it directly. But you want to search or you want to go into more depth, you can click the arrow pointing, and you go into selecting each of the individual elements. And this is one of the things that I think had made our life much easier. Of course, you may be thinking, oh, my, it's a lot more work, because I need to spend more time trying to find out. That is correct. That is true. It will take a little bit more time, but I think it's going to make your life and your billing staff much easier as we go through this, because then you will not be getting back claims or problem with diagnosis not being specific enough. So in this case, we probably can say that this bipolar is in partial remission. The patient is a mixed because he has some episodes. And then you have your list of. Interesting thing is that here, click mix, you cannot get one, so you just get impartial remission because it's current, and then it's moderate. No, the system will not let you select any diagnosis that doesn't make sense. So now you have here, and then we add it to today's assessment. Okay. So again, every diagnosis is going to be a new experience because every diagnosis have different, issues in terms of getting to the level of specificity that is needed. So this is to add previous history to today's assessments. Now, the other use for the IMO pop-up is to search for new diagnosis, and I think this is where IMO search really shines. You can search by common acronyms used in medicine, COPD, and then you click IMO search, and then you get all the COPDs. Again, just if you click COPD, maybe bronchitis or maybe something else, then you can then go either more in depth by clicking the down arrow or the arrow, and then you just select whatever appropriate it is. Then in this case is multiple, and then you just click plus. So I don't know where was that. Then you can search for CAD, okay, coronary artery disease, and then you can then go. It becomes pretty complicated here, but then you can say unspecified vessel. See, as you go down, it becomes more and more is native heart, so it's not transplanted. And if the patient has angina or have no angina, so we'll say angines, and then click pause. History you cannot add new diagnosis. Okay, I needed that assessment here. So add then, so it's on a specific vessel, native heart, angina, something like that. So that's important that you should select that because we were doing on the history, then this was not selected originally. So then you see you can search, and not only you can search simple words by using acronyms. You can search, for example, diabetes mellitus with neurologic manifestations. You can type DM, and the system will find you, whatever you're looking, and then you just need to decide if it's type 2 or type 1 or whatever. I think that's one of the things that we find. So you can use acronyms. You can use the first 2 or 3 letters of each of the words, and the system is smart enough to help you search for that. The more combination of letters or words that you use, the more potential for error, because the system may give you the find something like that, and then you will have to streamline. In general, this is the whole process for IMO that will help you determine which is the best for your patient. And this is in all the processes. You can see the selection of diagnosis is a pretty straightforward process, and if done all in the IMO, it will make your life much easier and will guide you through what is needed for the patient. So in summary, then you can then move from the history, the ICD-9, okay, to the ICD-10, okay. So if you see now in the history, you have these stars here, and those ICD-10 diagnosis, and this is how you know that a diagnosis is ICD-9 or ICD-10 by the starting here. So in reality, we only want to add the ones that are ICD-10. So we will add to ICD-10 whatever is in ICD-9 format. It's as simple as selecting a diagnosis and then clicking pause and add it there. Okay. Now that's number one. So you add assessments from the previous history to the assessment. And now you search for new diagnosis. It's again as simple as typing here hypertension, okay, HTN, then you get, HTN. Of course, you see, you will get the same words, the same abbreviation that you wanted. If you wanted to read hypertension, then you have to search for hypertension to be able to do that. And in this particular case, hypertension is essential hypertension, and you click plus and you add it to today's assessment. So, and pretty much it. So our goal then will be that once you're done, you click Save and Close, and you have added all new ICD-10 assessments to today's assessment, and you can then continue in your process for developing the plan as you normally would do for other assessments. Okay. So step would be then for us to meet 2 hours in a small group of 10 to 15 providers. I recommend that you watch this. So far we have only 40 minutes session. I think we will finish in the next couple of minutes. So watch this video a couple of times if you have any doubts. That will help you see what the process is. But as you can see, it is not a complicated process. It will just require for you to follow the same workflow that you are doing with the actions that we indicated, in which, in order for you to search, you have to just click the new blue button that says IMO IT problem, and that will then get you to the search screen that you can use to search whatever you need. Well, so much for your time. I hope that then you will have no problems with the ICD-10 translation, and then I will see you on the week of the 21st on the 2-hour hands-on session.